I'd like to welcome you to our study this morning. This morning we're looking at part 3 in our study of Halloween. There'll be a total of 5 parts. This is part number 3. This morning we're going to be looking at the sorcery symbols that are associated with Halloween. The sorcery symbols. Let me give you a list of what we'll be looking at this morning. Witches, black cats, spiders, werewolves, and full moons. All of those have something to do with sorcery. So we'll be talking about that. Those are the sorcery symbols of Halloween. Before we get started in our study, though, if we could please look at our text. We've been looking at 1 Thessalonians 5:21 and 22. 1 Thessalonians 5:21 and 22. And again, I would ask you to please try and listen to all of this series on Halloween to get the proper context of everything that's being said. I don't have enough time to review a whole lot, and so to really understand each part as we go through it, you need to understand the previous parts and what was said there. Okay, in 1 Thessalonians 5:21 and 22, the Bible is speaking to Christians. The Lord is giving Christians His word, and here's what He says. Prove all things. Hold fast that which is good. Abstain from all appearance of evil. Folks, this is a responsibility each one of us has as Christians. We're to look out at the world among us, and we're to put those things to the test. That's what it means by prove all things. We're to ask ourselves the question, when I see things take place in the world around me, is it proper for me to participate in those things or not? The Lord goes on and says, hold fast that which is good. He says, look, when you look out at the world and when you see good things take place, you need to hold fast to them. You need to participate in those, and you need to not let them go and let them slip out of your life, because those are good things I'm pleased with. But He also goes on to say, abstain from all appearance of evil. The Lord goes on to say, you know what? When you look out at the world and the different activities of the world, sometimes you're going to find yourself confronted with evil activities. In that case, abstain from them. In other words, keep them away from you. Don't partake of them. Even if it's simply appearance of evil that we're talking about. So He says there may be some things in the world that may not be evil in and of themselves, but they appear to be evil. Even in those cases, a Christian, for the sake of his testimony, is to abstain from those things. So that's the reason why we're studying Halloween, and that's why we're looking at these things. The question for the Christian is, when I participate in Halloween, is it something that's evil? Or is it something that's good? Or is it something that maybe appears evil? And in each case, it's going to be between a Christian and his Lord as far as how he should deal with Halloween. Okay, again, I'm not going to give you a conclusion at the end that says we should or shouldn't do such and such. This is between a Christian and his Lord. I just am trying to help us to understand what Halloween really involves, so each Christian can make an educated, godly choice based on the leadership of the Spirit to what level of activity they're going to have in Halloween. Okay, this morning we're looking at the different sorcery symbols of Halloween. Let's look at them one at a time. We'll look at their history to help us to understand what they're all about. First of all, black cats and witches. Now, again, let me just say real quickly, keep in mind, as we looked at in lesson number 1, the celebration of Halloween involves a belief that dead spirits walk the earth and can be harmful to man. And so they would hold a Halloween celebration, or the day before Samhain celebration, to honor and to pacify those dead spirits walking on the earth, the spirits of dead men walking on the earth. Keep that in mind, because all these are important then as we study these. Okay, people have believed that the souls of dead appeared as black cats. So as we talk about witches and black cats, keep in mind, to people back in the pagan days especially, they believed that the souls of dead people appeared as black cats. The black cat was also commonly used as an idol to worship the goddess Diana. Diana is, of course, the Wiccan goddess, as well as it goes back to the ancient times as well, but they brought Diana into the Wiccan worship. She was the Wiccan goddess of heaven and nature. She was called Diana. A black cat was a picture of Diana, so they would worship black cats as an idol to Diana. There are many who believe that witches could change into black cats, or that perhaps reincarnated witches appeared as black cats from a past lifetime. Okay, so you have people believing that witches could change into black cats. They also believed when they saw a black cat, that was a witch that has died and has been reincarnated. So you can see how throughout history, witches and black cats have been linked together. Some people think that black cats are the evil assistants of witches, who aided the witches in casting spells and other enchantments. So between the belief of cats being dead spirits and cats being involved with the goddess Diana in her worship, you have those all coming together, making black cats a very important part of their Halloween celebration. Okay, the idea of witches, one more thing I want to share with you about that. Witches were thought to have traveled on broomsticks to gather twice a year to honor Satan. Okay, so back in those days, they believed the witches flew on broomsticks. They would gather twice a year to honor Satan. Guess what the dates were when they would meet together? April 30th and October 31st, Halloween Day. That's when they believed witches held a convocation to worship Satan. So you can see how all of these things came together and how witches and black cats became a very important part of the Halloween celebration. What about spiders? It's believed that spiders hid in witches' robes, and they whispered instructions in witches' ears. Not only that, but the spider webs are associated with places not frequented in life, or frequented by life. Okay, many times, if you see deserted places, what's one of the signs they're deserted? You have cobwebs all over the place. So, cobwebs are a picture of a lack of life. They're a picture of death. They're a picture of desertion. You can see from that standpoint how spiders became a part of Halloween. Dead spirits walking on the earth? Well, it only makes sense. You would have cobwebs in those dead spirits' houses because they're no longer living. You had spiders they believed hiding in witches' robes, that type of thing. So all of that's a part of why spiders are part of the Halloween celebration. How about werewolves and full moon? Werewolves came out at night with the full moon. Okay, witches are said to come out and play during the full moons. Many aspects of Satan worship are done under the light of the full moon. Get this, the full moon is the astronomical representation for Diana, the Wiccan goddess. Remember the black cat that was looked upon as Diana? Full moons also are looked upon as the goddess Diana. Full moons were believed to enhance the power of spells and enchantments that were performed by witches. So you can see how full moons and witches were all connected. What about werewolves? Well, not only did werewolves come out at night with the full moon, but human beings that had a spell cast upon them resulted in them becoming werewolves. That's one of the ways supposedly a person could become a werewolf. You have a witch cast a spell on you. These spells could come from witches or from Satan himself. Also, a person can make a pact with the devil that would give him the ability to shift into a werewolf or transform into a werewolf. So there's another aspect of this concerning Satan worship that's involved. The common thread that runs between black cats, witches, spiders, werewolves, and full moons, the one common thing among them all is the idea of their association with witches and their association with spells, enchantments, and acts of magic. What does the Bible say about spells, enchantments, and acts of magic? Let me quote from Deuteronomy 18. He who uses divination, then down the list a little bit further, an enchanter or a witch or a charmer, down the list a little bit further, a wizard. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. Do you know what an abomination is? It's things that deserve God's hottest anger. When God says something's an abomination, he says, my hottest anger gets riled up against those things. What was on the list again? Those who use divination, enchanters, witches, charmers, and wizards. How about in 2 Chronicles 33? And again, you can get the exact references in my blog along with many other verses and much more information. In 2 Chronicles 33, it talks about a wicked king named Manasseh. He did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, like unto the abominations of the heathen. He built altar for the hosts of heaven. Remember, Diana was worshipped as a full moon. He used enchantments. He used witchcraft. He dealt with wizards. He wrought much evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke the Lord to anger. We wonder what the Lord thinks about spells and enchantments and all the things related to that. Folks, it makes him angry. It makes him angry to the point, in the Old Testament, the Lord commanded capital punishment for anybody who did it. Listen to this. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. They weren't allowed back in the Old Testament days in the nation of Israel. They weren't allowed to allow a witch to live. They were to put a witch to death back in those days. Listen to this. Anyone who hath gone and served other gods, this is Deuteronomy 17, and worshipped them, either the sun or the moon or any other host of heaven which I have not commanded, that is an abomination that is wrought in Israel. Thou shalt stone them with stones till they die. The whole idea of worshiping other gods and worshiping aspects of nature for gods, like black cats, like full moons, those things were such an abomination to the Lord that, again, he demanded the death penalty for the nation of Israel back in Old Testament times. Folks, we should have no doubt about what the Lord's attitude about casting of spells and enchantments, being witches and wizards, and worshiping nature, worshiping different false gods. We should have no question about what the Lord's attitude is toward that. So my question is this. When it comes to the Halloween celebration, maybe dressing like a witch, let's say, prove all things. Hold fast that which is good. Abstain from all appearance of evil. As a Christian, should we feel comfortable, again, I'll just use the example, dressing as a witch? Or is that something that is good? 1 Thessalonians 5, prove all things, hold fast that which is good, abstain from all appearance of evil. How about putting a bunch of spider webs up in your house with plastic spiders on them over the October 31st celebration season? Now that we know how those came about and how it's related to Halloween, do we feel comfortable doing that or not? That's the question that each person has to answer before their Lord. It's between a Christian and his Lord. What about werewolves and full moons? When you realize that a werewolf supposedly came into existence because somebody cast a spell on them, and that's how you had the first werewolf? When many times it's supposedly, according to legend, and we know none of this is true, but the legend behind them is that a werewolf enters into a pact with Satan, and Satan gave that man the ability then to change into a wolf. That's how a part of that legend goes as well. You know, there's different legends about these things. There's different ways that these things came about where we now talk about these things. Where did they come from to start with? Well, that's how. Folks, again, the question that we're trying to ask during this whole series is this. As Christians, what level of participation should we endure concerning the holiday season? the Halloween season. May the Lord bless you as you study His Word.